Welcome to Hannity, and tonight the general election is only 40 days away, and Donald Trump is campaigning harder than ever. Now, Newt Gingrich, he'll join us in just a minute, but first tonight, while the GOP nominee tries to explain to voters how he will make their lives better, well, the Clinton campaign is sinking to a new low. They're trying to falsely paint Donald Trump as a sexist. They're dragging out 20-year-old claims which have been proven to be misleading from former Miss Universe winner Alicia Machado. Now, Clinton also failed to mention Miss Machado's connection to a 1990s attempted murder and threats of violence that she made against a judge in her home country of Venezuela. Now, while Hillary Clinton rolls out stories from questionable characters like Miss Machado, the Washington Post is raising red flags about Hillary Clinton's own troubling history with women connected to her husband's transgressions. Now, it's a huge story on the front page. The headline reads, "Enabler or Family Defender: How Hillary Clinton Responded to Her Husband's Accusers." Now, the story goes on to describe in detail Hillary Clinton's efforts to discredit and fight back against accusations from her husband's many accusers. Now, take a look at several attempts by Hillary in the 1990s to flat out discredit the women or blame their scandals on something else other than her own husband. Watch this.
Off the phone and tell me that she said sort of wacky things which we thought were attributable to the fact that she was terrified.
People have been harassing my husband for, I don't know, ever since I've known him. I have to believe that it is in large measure motivated by people who just flat out disagree with the kind of politics and policies that my husband believes are best for America.
The great story here, for anybody willing to find it and write about it and explain it, is this vast right-wing conspiracy that has been conspiring against my husband since the day he announced for president.
Now, those examples are just the tip of the iceberg from Hillary and Clinton confidants on these issues. Now, in regards to Bill's relationship with Jennifer Flowers, who in 1992 claimed to have had a 12-year relationship with the future president, well, Hillary responded to Flowers' story by telling Vanity Fair, quote, "Well, if we've been in front of a jury, I'd say, Miss Flowers, isn't it true you were asked by the AP in June of 1990 and you said no? Weren't you asked by the Arkansas Democrat and you said no? I mean, I would crucify her." Wow, crucify her? Really? Now, in the case of former White House intern Monica Lewinsky, who Bill Clinton originally lied about having a sexual relationship with, Hillary Clinton had a less than flattering nickname for her, according to a journal entry from a friend, Diane Blair, that was made public. Now, Blair described Hillary's reaction to the Lewinsky scandal as, quote, well, she says to his credit that he tried to break it off, tried to pull away, tried to manage someone who was clearly a narcissistic Looney Tune, but it was beyond control. Now, when Hillary was given a chance to deny that she ever said that about Monica Lewinsky in an interview with Diane Sawyer in 2014, well, she declined to comment. Then there's Paula Jones, who in 1998, Bill Clinton wound up paying $850,000 in an out-of-court settlement for her to drop her sexual harassment charges against him. Now, according to the New York Times, CNN, and many other outlets, longtime Clinton ally James Carville said this about Paula Jones, quote, "If you drag a $100 bill through a trailer park, you never know what you'll find." Now, we also can't forget about the term bimbo eruptions. Now, that was coined by Bill's own 1992 presidential campaign to refer to the women who made accusations against the candidate. Now, if those damning examples aren't enough, well, over the years, I have interviewed many of Bill Clinton's accusers, and here's what they've told me. Take a look.
You described a scene where he was biting on your lip, and then when it was all over, he was leaving. Said, "You better put some ice on that."
Yeah, and casually put on his sunglasses and walked out the door. I was sitting there crying and so upset at the time, and I felt like somebody, that the next person would be somebody coming through the door to get rid of the body.
You met Hillary Clinton.
Yes. She held on to my hand and she said, "Do you understand everything that you do?" I mean, cold chills went up my spine. That's the first time I became afraid of that woman.
You interpret that to mean she knew about the incident?
I certainly do. And thank you for keeping quiet.
On the eve of your testimony in the Paula Jones case, you lost your cat, and there was somebody who came up to you, a stranger.
He approached me one morning. He alluded to the fact, he alluded to my cat by name in past tense. He said, how is that? He was a nice cat. He said that Bullseye was a nice cat.
And that was a direct threat, you believe, on the eve of your testimony to let you know the cat's gone.
That was followed by, how are your children? And he named them by name. That was followed by the naming of very dear friends to children. That was followed by, did you ever get those tires fixed? I had 3 out of 4 tires of my car flattened by a nail gun. Hillary claims to be and wants us to think that she's a champion of women's rights, she's a women's advocate, she's a feminist. She has enabled his behavior for over 30 years.
I personally feel that if I had not become public when I did, even though I had not planned it, that I wouldn't be sitting here talking with you now. I think something would have happened to me. I think most of the women that have been involved with Bill Clinton have told of situations where they were threatened.
When all's said and done, are you glad you did all of this?
Yes, because I knew I was telling the truth and I had nothing to hide. And once and for all, I hope the world realizes that I was telling the truth and I wasn't just making it up.
Now, what's perhaps most disturbing about all of this is Hillary Clinton's blatant hypocrisy about a woman's right to be believed in cases of sexual assault. Now, last November, she ignored everything we just covered and tweeted, every survivor of sexual assault deserves to be heard, believed, and supported. Well, if only she gave the same courtesy consideration to the women she smeared, slandered, and besmirched for decades. Here now with reaction, former Speaker of the House, Fox News contributor Newt Gingrich. Mr. Speaker, she now wants to bring this issue up about words that she doesn't deem appropriate by Donald Trump. To me, this now opens a door. And that is not just the allegations of exposing oneself, of groping and grabbing and fondling against a woman's will, or Juanita Broderick's claim of rape, but how these women were treated and the names they were called by her and Clinton surrogates. If this is now, if they're going to bring it up, I say it's fair game. What's your reaction?
Well, look, I think when you run for president, everything is fair game. The question is whether it's the right thing to be doing to elect Donald Trump. What I was really struck by, and I just did a newsletter to go out this afternoon on what I described as Clinton's gutter campaign. She has a fair chance of winning if they can keep this campaign down in the gutter. If it's he said, she said, and it's a personality thing, she has a fair chance of winning. She has zero chance of winning if Trump can discipline himself and run this at a very high level. She is wrong on taxes. She's wrong on trade. She's wrong on jobs. She's wrong on the Middle East. She's wrong on corruption. And I frankly think that what the Clintons did in Haiti and the way in which they exploited and ripped off poor Haitians is vastly more powerful to the average American. I'm not defending Hillary Clinton or Bill Clinton, and I think you're right. It's fair game. The question is it a fight that they've thought about?
Well, there are two different questions, though. You know, in other words, no, I'm a talk show host. I do a show.
I know.
And to me, it's fair game. Am I saying that this is something Donald Trump should do? I actually agree with you. I thought the last moments of that debate the other night, when he looked out in the audience and said, I can say a lot here, but I'm not going to, was pretty powerful. But I'm not running for president. And my job is to inform our audience. And there are a lot of people watching that never heard the name Juanita Broderick, Paula Jones, Kathleen Willey, or Jennifer Flowers. So if she wants to make it part of the campaign, I can spend a segment or two on the show and inform them of who these people are.
I mean, look, you have the right to do anything you want to, and you have a very popular show, and your audience likes what you do. If you're asking me about the campaign, and if you're asking me about the choices of the American people, there are so many things that are devastatingly bad about the Clintons, and so many things that she has done wrong. And her positions ideologically are so wrong. I mean, if I could get every American to walk into the voting booth thinking about the Clinton Foundation ripping off poor Haitians, thinking about the kind of places that gave money to the Clinton Foundation, thinking about the degree to which all of her policies overseas were wrong, thinking about the radical left-wing Supreme Court she'll appoint. There are so many things that end up being 70-30, 80-20 against her that don't get you involved in this kind of personality fight.
This is a choice election. I agree.
Yeah.
Listen, in principle, look, you're one of the brightest political strategists in history, and that's proven itself over and over again. I think this election is a choice election. You mentioned the Supreme Court. Yeah, pay to play is a big issue. The Clinton Foundation, emails, lying, Benghazi, the Iranian deal, creating a vacuum for ISIS in Syria and Iraq, saying radical Islam, the economy, energy, education, immigration, vetting refugees, all of that's important. That's the choice in the election. But it's also, to me, how do you claim the mantle to be a champion of women's rights and act that way to those women, and then take money from Saudi Arabia that abuses women, kills gays and lesbians, and persecutes Christians and Jews? That question hasn't been asked by anybody yet.
Right. And I think, look, I think 2 segments or 3 segments going country by country over how they treat women, how they treat gays and lesbians, how they treat Christians and Jews, how much money they gave to the Clintons, or, and as you mentioned briefly, looking at the uranium deal and the amount of money Bill Clinton made for their personal family out of that kind of deal where the Russians were clearly paying them off. I think there are lots of things. The challenge you've got with the Clintons is nobody has been better at being in the mud than they have. And they can live in the mud. For some reason, they've acquired this skill that if they can just get it down there and get dirty enough, the people get disgusted, and in disgust, they might be able to win. The clearer it is how bad they are, the clearer it is what the choices in your life are. You know, for every American to understand, this is how bad the economy is going to be. This is how she's going to kill jobs. This is how bad our security is going to be. These are the risks she's going to take bringing in unvetted Syrian refugees. I mean, there are so many things wrong with the Clinton campaign that if we could find a way to get that across, she gets crushed. And you saw it in the debate the other night. The strongest points for Trump were the first half of the debate, where they were on big issues, and on every big issue he was beating her. And then Lester helped her get off onto junk, and it was totally one-sided. I've said over and over, this was the Holt-Clinton versus Trump debate. And let me tell you, I believe Anderson Cooper will be vastly worse. I'm
going to get back into these choices that people will have in 40 days from now. When we get back, we'll have more with former Speaker of the House, Newt Gingrich, and also coming up later tonight.
You see all the days off that Hillary takes? Day off, day off, day off.
Pretty good schedule. Donald Trump continues to question Hillary Clinton's stamina. We'll check in with Monica Crowley and Judge Jeanine Pirro. That's coming up, and much more tonight, straight ahead on Hannity. Welcome back to Hannity. So Donald Trump was in New Hampshire earlier today explaining to voters in the Granite State why he should be the next president. Here are some of those highlights.
We're going to take on the special interests, the lobbyists, and the corrupt corporate media that have rigged the system against everyday Americans, and they've rigged it for a long time. We're going to create millions of new jobs, and we really need them. We need jobs. People have given up looking for jobs. We're going to create trillions of dollars in new wealth for our communities and rising wages for every worker in America. We're going to create a new government that serves you, your family, and your country. We're going to end the Clinton corruption. She's a globalist who has made a career of taking jobs from our country and giving them to other countries. I'm not running to be president of the world. I'm running to be president of the United States of America.
And we continue with former Speaker of the House, Fox News contributor Newt Gingrich. I want to go into your advice for the next debate, because to me it's pretty fascinating. I made a list of everything that I could think of that wasn't brought up. Pay to play, the Clinton Foundation, Hillary lying about emails, taking money from corrupt governments that abuse women, gays, lesbians, Christians, and Jews like Saudi Arabia, immigration in the wall, vetting refugees, why she won't say radical Islam, energy independence, Obamacare, keep it or leave it, the Iranian deal, creating the vacuum for ISIS. They got into a little bit. Benghazi never came up. And the Supreme Court. That's a lot of ground not to cover in 90 minutes and wasting time on a birther issue, in my view. How does Trump get all of that in? Because I think fundamentally, you're right. On substance, that's what's going to drive people to the polls and should be the deciding factor in the election in 40 days.
Well, look, I think that there's a very simple technique that Trump has to pick up that I first learned from watching Ronald Reagan, not just in debates, but in interviews. There's two steps. First, you have to know what you want to communicate. What is it that you want people to know? Second, whatever you're asked, you give it a half-sentence answer and pivot. So he says, well, what about this birther issue? And you say, you know, that really was a long time ago and doesn't actually matter to people. But let me tell you, when I think about people in America today who don't have a job, who don't have insurance for health, who don't have safety, I think about the people in Chicago who are getting shot and killed. So you give Lester Holt a half second, or in the case of when you're going to be dealing with, I think, his most determined opponent in Anderson Cooper. You listen patiently to whatever Anderson says. You give him 2 or 3 words on whatever he asks you, and you pivot immediately to what you want to talk about. And you don't worry about Hillary. When I debated, people thought I did pretty well because I wasn't talking to either the moderator or the other candidates. I was talking to the American people. And every single question I wanted to turn back to the American people. And I didn't actually care very much what they asked me. You can't.
By the way, I know you for years. I agree with you. I'm sitting here. Shouldn't every answer have a three parts to it? Number one, she didn't do it in 30 years. A quip. It should have, well, it
46.
hasn't worked up to now, and here's my solution.
Wait, 46 years. I fact-checked. Hillary Clinton's first campaign is Joe Lieberman for state Senate, not U.S. Senate, state Senate.
What about Barry
1970.
Goldwater?
No. This is a period as a liberal Democrat. She has been a liberal Democrat activist for 46 years. And this is something Trump needs to understand. She is a Yale Law graduate who, for 46 years, has practiced being glib, has practiced being persuasive, has practiced saying things that have no meaning. So if you want a glibness test, Trump will never beat her. This is what she does well. She does words. Now, what he does is he actually builds buildings. He actually builds companies. He actually creates jobs. And he has to set up a rhythm of distinction, which could be as simple as saying, you know, there you go again, lots of words, no product. Let me tell you what I would do. And very simple, 10 words, now you're on to your topic. But he's got to walk in that room knowing the messages he wants to get across. Notice what she did brilliantly the other night. They had set up all of their allies in the news media to make this whole case about Machado. And she suddenly realized with less than 3 minutes to go, she hadn't gotten it into the debate. And it was all based to be triggered by the debate. So if you actually read the transcript, she suddenly goes, whoops, over here, gets Machado in, she's done her job. Now it's going to roll out and everybody will be able to talk about it for 4 days. She knew exactly what she wanted to accomplish, and she distorted the whole debate to get her point in to trigger all the news that they'd already set up.
It kind of broke down, though, on her, didn't it? Considering the woman threatened to kill a judge, and a woman apparently was suspected of being an accomplice in a murder case.
No, but this is like Ferguson. This is like Benghazi. This is like being shot at when she landed in Bosnia. The truth is that they picked.
I came under sniper fire and got met with flowers. That lie.
Yeah. So here's the deal. In the tail end of liberalism's great victim period, they're finding victims who aren't very attractive. They're not. They turn out to be not real. I mean, Ferguson is an example. When you got done with it, what happened in Baltimore, where every single policeman kept getting exonerated because the prosecutor was wrong, and the whole story the media bought was wrong. And so here's another example. Here we trot somebody out. She's supposed to be the perfect victim. Turns out there are a few flaws in it. I mean, she did threaten a judge, apparently, with killing him. She was accused of being the driver of the getaway car in a murder. I mean, little thing, not big things, but things that sort of make her less victimish than you'd like. And as you played on the radio show today, I thought it was a great clip. Here's Donald Trump when you go back to, remember, you're talking about 20 years ago. When you go back 20 years ago and you actually listen to Trump talking about her, he's talking about her in a very compassionate and serious way with the reporters and saying, look, we really want to help her, and she's got a challenge, and it's really important to Miss Universe, and she's beautiful. And I thought the clip of him today would have answered for any reasonable person how totally phony the Hillary Clinton attack was.
Well, we like to do the media's job. That's what we get paid to do. Mr. Speaker, you think he's going to win?
Oh, yeah. I think in the end, people are going to look at high taxes, low taxes. No jobs, good jobs. Terrible trade deal, good trade deal. Weak foreign policy, strong foreign policy. And they're going to say, no, I'm not doing it again.
All right, Mr. Speaker, thanks for being with us. I agree with you. And coming up next, tonight, right here on Hannity.
The wealthy donors who want to shut down American energy, they're donating to Hillary Clinton. Follow the money.
Donald Trump continues to go after Hillary Clinton for her numerous corruption scandals. We'll check in with Monica Crowley, Judge Jeanine Pirro. They'll weigh in. And then later, Hillary Clinton is struggling with millennial voters. Charles Hurt, Lisa Booth, they weigh in on that and much more tonight, straight ahead, right here on Hannity.
You see all the days off that Hillary takes? Day off, day off, day off. All those day offs. And then she can't even make it to her car. Isn't it tough? All those day offs, right? Boom. Do you ever see her chart? She won't be campaigning today. Won't be campaigning today. This is day in, day out. And I'm campaigning. I'm saying, what's going on?
Donald Trump yesterday knocking Hillary Clinton's campaign schedule and her stamina. Earlier today, he also went after Clinton's long history of corruption. Let's take a look.
Everything you need to know about Hillary Clinton, sometimes referred to as Crooked Hillary, can be understood with this simple but very important phrase: follow the money. The wealthy donors who want to shut down American energy, they're donating to Hillary Clinton. Follow the money. The special interests who want to open borders are donating to Hillary Clinton. Again, just follow the money.
All right, here with reaction, Fox News contributor Monica Crowley, the host of Justice, Judge Jeanine Pirro. If you were the Attorney General, why are you laughing?
You know what I would do. Go ahead, but I want to hear the question.
You would put her in jail.
Without a doubt. You do not have the right to violate the law, put the security of this nation in jeopardy, lie to the American people about it over and over again, meet with the FBI where all the rules are thrown to the wind, and then, say to the American people, I should be your president. Really? This is, people talk about two systems of justice for, one for African Americans and one for whites. I see two systems where people have power and money, and then the ordinary American, irrespective of their color.
If it was me who did the thing she did,
I'd indict you. Of course I would. It's the law. We are a nation of laws.
I would hire you as my defense attorney first.
Yeah, but Lady Justice is blind.
No, Lady Justice is not blind.
Well, she picks through the bandages now and then.
Well, I know. You stood up for Comey way before.
I did. Because I worked with him and I loved him. And so when I say I'm disappointed, you got to know that it kills me to talk about it, because I was up front saying what a great guy he was. I am so disappointed. On my show this weekend, I'm going to go after him.
When you're in a banana republic, you have low standards because you're in a banana republic. We are in the United States of America. We have higher standards. And what's so outrageous and unbelievable about what's happening with the FBI investigation, the Comey farce, the fact that Hillary lied to the FBI, lied to Congress, and it's no big deal, is outrageous.
Why did they give them all immunity? Everybody got immunity.
That is a huge question that needs to be asked.
I'll answer it.
But here's the overall point. When you have a Department of Justice, Sean and Jeanine, that is corrupted, okay, because that is the one bulwark in this republic for the people to make sure that there is an impartial enforcer of the law. When you no longer have that, as we don't under this president and this attorney general and this FBI director, the whole system falls apart. And that's what we're seeing. And that's one of the big reasons why Donald Trump has such traction.
She did sell access to her office. More than half the people that got access to her when she was Secretary of State were donors of the Clinton Foundation. Others got access, and then they got benefits, financial benefits from all this. So the Clinton Foundation, emails, pay-to-play, Saudi Arabian money. I mean, none of that came up in the first debate. I'm getting the impression Donald Trump took enough incoming from her that he's going to take the gloves off.
Well, let's hope he does take the gloves off, because as we all know, you know that first debate, you remember Mitt Romney won. It doesn't matter. It's the second and third that really matter. But what he's got to do is he's got to prosecute her. No more Mr. Nice Guy. No more Chelsea was in the audience. That's hogwash. Chelsea's heard it all before, and she's even heard it from you, Donald. But what we've got to do is try to make sure that Donald Trump gets out what the Department of Justice and the FBI is not willing to unearth. And that is the whole purpose behind this server, was to cover what they were doing in the pay-to-play 501c3 alleged charity.
I agree with you. And do you see this happen? I mean, look, Donald Trump has said, the next Attorney General, the statute of limitations is not expired, is it, Ms.
No,
Counselor?
it is not expired. And also, the immunity that was given to these 5 people does not last until if there's a new Department of Justice, they can still be prosecuted. It's just that limited immunity that they gave them.
Okay.
No wonder they didn't have a case. They gave everybody involved immunity. Yeah. You know, it's like somebody robs a bank and you give the bank robber and the getaway driver immunity. Of course you have no case. Look, he needs in the second and third debates, and from now on throughout the campaign, he needs to be talking about the C word, corruption. Clinton Foundation, emails, server, Benghazi,
corruption and change.
The Comey farce.
We got to change the direction of the country.
And by the way, her serial lying about all of this. He needs to pound that and get in her face in both debates about that.
You know, but there's a fine line. I mean, and I think everybody told him before this debate, okay, remember Rick Lazio, don't get in her space. Well, hang on. No, this is a fair analysis going in. He showed he could take her punch, showed he can stand at that stage, showed that he had a different vision for the country. But he did leave an awful lot on the table. And more importantly, I think Lester Holt, how do you not talk about the Clinton Foundation or emails or immigration or vetting refugees or radical Islam or or energy or education or the Iranian deal? How do you not bring these things up?
Sean,
in 90 uninterrupted minutes.
You do that when you make a decision that you're not going to question her the way Matt Lauer did, and he doesn't want to get the heat from NBC.
Well, now he's getting the heat the other way.
Yeah, but he doesn't work for us.
When you're a Republican candidate, you know you're never going to get an impartial, fair moderator. That's baked into the cake. The question is how you handle the questions and how you can handle yourself. Donald Trump should not be talking about himself. His whole rationale for this campaign was, I don't need this job. I'm rich, I have a great family and a great business. I'm doing this for the American people and the country.
Well said.
Stop talking about himself and make it about the future of the country.
Don't forget, Judge Jeanine is planning to go off this weekend. You don't want to miss it.
Saturday
and Sunday night, 9 p.m. right here on the Fox News Channel. And coming up next tonight, Hillary Clinton is desperately trying to court millennial voters as a new poll shows, well, she has good reason to be very worried. Charles Hurt, Lisa Booth. And then later tonight, President Obama was asked by a Gold Star mom why he refuses to use the term, even to this day, radical Islam. His answer, stunning. Dr. Gorka responds, and much more tonight. Welcome back to Hannity. So with just 40 days until Election Day, Hillary Clinton is desperately trying to court millennial voters. Now, yesterday, First Lady Michelle Obama and Senator Bernie Sanders, they were out on the campaign trail for the Democratic nominee. Now, Clinton's counting on this group to turn out for her this November like they did for President Obama in the last 2 elections. But Clinton has good reason to be worried. According to Gallup, only 47% of those aged 18 to 34 say they'll definitely vote this election. That's way down from 2008, when 74% said they'd vote in that election. Here now with reaction. Washington Times, from the Washington Times, Charles Hurt, from the Washington Examiner, of course, a contributor, Lisa Booth. Guys, good to see you. Lisa,
Hi, Sean.
Why the disparity? That's more than 25% down. Now, that's dramatic.
It is dramatic, Sean, and I think the big problem for Hillary Clinton is the lack of a cohesive message. And this is a candidate who doesn't really believe in anything. I mean, what does she stand for? Why is she running outside of just wanting the power of the presidency? And you look at someone like President Obama, and even if you disagree with his policies, which we both do, he was a candidate who had a message, and that's what he ran on. Hillary Clinton does not. And if you even look at the Democratic primary as well, Bernie Sanders trounced Hillary Clinton with young voters, and he did it because, again, even if you disagree with his policies, he had a message, and Hillary Clinton does not.
Do you think that when she says free education, free school, free college, free daycare, free, Charles, that resonates with the younger generation, or maybe they're beginning to realize that the last president that accumulated more debt than the 43 other presidents before him combined, that's their debt. They're going to pay that back. They're going to have to work their entire lives to pay down that debt.
Well, clearly that message resonated when Bernie Sanders was going around saying it, and everybody liked it. But that's the real problem, because, as Lisa says, you know, people just don't believe that Hillary Clinton actually has any message whatsoever. Somebody had a great statistic the other day that a higher percentage of Americans believe in Bigfoot than believe in that Hillary Clinton is telling the truth about these things. But the problem with trotting out people like Michelle Obama and Bernie Sanders to these events is, yeah, they do draw some enthusiastic crowds, but they only remind people how unappealing and unenthusiastic Hillary Clinton is.
You know, but
and
I
the real
wonder,
terrifying thing for them.
Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, she didn't do anything in that debate. She did nothing in that debate the other night to change that. She didn't win a single new voter out of that.
I just, you know, if you look at 1 in 5 American families, not a single person working. If you look at 12 million more on food stamps since Obama's president, 8 million more in poverty. And then you look at men 18 to 34. You know, 1 in 6 are either in jail or they live in mommy and daddy's basement. Now, at 18, I didn't count on mommy and daddy. I paid every penny of college myself. I was out on my own. I worked since I was 8 delivering papers. I'm not so sure that they don't begin to see here how dire the economy is, because they're living it. You know what I'm saying? I think they've got to see that job opportunities aren't available.
Well, and Sean, it's been particularly tough for young Americans as well. They don't have a lot of opportunities, especially post-graduation. You look at the average student has a student loan debt of something like $35,000. So they are struggling under President Obama's failed policies. But I also think Hillary Clinton's problem with connecting to young Americans is the lack of inauthenticity. I mean, this is a woman, as I mentioned before, who doesn't really stand for anything. This is a woman who has repeatedly lied to Americans. It's very transparent, and millennials see that. They don't trust her. They don't believe she stands for anything. And I think that is Hillary Clinton's, her biggest problem connecting with millennial voters is herself.
You know, I'll give you one example, Charlie Hurt. Do you know how many people want their kids to intern at the Fox News Channel? And we could take like 1 in 1,000. How many people apply for jobs, and there's so few that get hired? I mean, I think it's gotten so bad and so tough. And maybe that's why, and I know that people hate that I cite online polling, but when you see The Hill and you see Slate and Time.com, you know, these are not mainstream conservative polling, you know, or websites. And when they vote in a debate, after a debate so overwhelmingly for Trump, it's telling me something. It's more than just Trump's base, that I think people feel how bad things are, and that's what they're voting on.
And we see that reflected in these rallies that he has, where he has, you know, 10,000, 20,000 people showing up, and Hillary Clinton can't even fill a little, you know, cafeteria room with supporters. But the one thing about this that I think is kind of depressing, though, is that a lot of these same problems we saw in 2012 when President Obama shouldn't have won re-election, and because all of these problems could be laid at his feet and those very policies, and yet he somehow still got re-elected. I'll never understand that.
All right, guys, I got to run, guys. We're just out of time, but I appreciate it. Thank you both. All right, coming up next tonight on this busy news night right here on Hannity.
These folks think that and claim that they're speaking for Islam, but I don't want to validate what they do.
President Obama asked by a Gold Star mom why he refuses to use the term radical Islam even to this day. Dr. Sebastian Gorka, he'll weigh in next tonight right here on Hannity. And welcome back to Hannity. So last night, during a Clinton News Network town hall, President Obama was asked by a Gold Star mom to explain why he refuses to call our enemy what it really is. Take a look.
Why do you still refuse to use the term Islamic terrorist?
The truth of the matter is that this is an issue that has been sort of manufactured, because there is no doubt, and I've said repeatedly, that where we see terrorist organizations like Al-Qaeda or ISIL, they have perverted and distorted and tried to claim the mantle of Islam for an excuse for basically barbarism and death. These folks think that and claim that they're speaking for Islam. But I don't want to validate what they do.
Here now with reaction, author of Defeating Jihad, The Winnable War, Dr. Sebastian Gorka. Dr. Gorka, I don't buy this, because if he can say ISIL, which, by the way, I say Islamic State, we got to talk about that, too. Isn't that saying Islamic? But he did say at one time the Islamic State is not Islamic. So, I mean, there is a real utter refusal to acknowledge the connection. Why does he refuse to do this? What's the real reason?
It's like that good old joke, right? The Islamic State, it's not Islamic and it's not a state. It's absurd. Why doesn't he do it? The first thing I'd like to ask is he an imam? Is he an Islamic theologian? What are his credentials for saying whether or not what ISIS does is Islamic or not? He says it's a perversion of Islam. Based upon what? I'd love to know what his credentials are. Now, why he doesn't call it by its name is because he cannot admit what the enemy is. Because if he does, the whole left-wing edifice of multiculturalism collapses. And on top of that, the last 7.5 years of American counterterrorism policy is proven to be an utter failure,
You know,
Sean.
I sadly believe we're going to look back and we're going to have another attack, and then there'll be another 9/11-like commission report. And one of the things they're going to write about is a president and a presidential candidate's refusal to say radical Islam. And then we'll mention Belgium, and we'll mention Paris and the multiple attacks there. And then we'll mention Great Britain, and we'll mention Germany and migrants. Then we'll mention we wouldn't vet the refugees and listen to Comey and Clapper and Brennan and McCall and General Allen. And then we're going to mention Chattanooga and San Bernardino and Fort Hood and Orlando. And then we're going to say they were at war with us. We weren't at war with them. Do we ever learn from stupid mistakes? Because that's what we're being set up for here. Tell me that I'm wrong and I'll feel a lot better.
I can't, Sean. That's why I wrote the book Defeating Jihad, because I'm as angry as you are about why we're losing a war after 15 years that we could have won within a matter of months. Let me quote to you what an unnamed student of mine said to me at National Defense University in his dissertation. He nailed it. He said, if the enemy can control what you're allowed to say about them, you've already lost the war. Sean, the enemy controls what we're allowed to say about them. It's as if you couldn't say the word Nazi during World War II. It's absurd.
It's absurd, and it defies all logic and common sense and understanding of what's happening. Dr. Gorka, you get it. I hope maybe if Trump wins, you go work for him. I'd like to see you in that position.
He has to win first, Sean. Thank you.
40 days, we'll know the answer to that question. And when we come back, we have a very important question of the day, and we need your help. That's straight ahead. And welcome back to Hannity, and it's time for our question of the day. Do you think Hillary Clinton's past treatment of Bill's accusers is a legitimate campaign issue? Why not? After what she tried to unload on Trump, accusing him of racism and sexism and everything under the sun? Yeah, fair game. Just go to Facebook.com/Sean Hannity. Tell me if I'm right or wrong. @Sean Hannity on Twitter. Fortunately, that's all the time we have left for this evening. Thank you for being with us, and we will see you back here, hopefully, tomorrow night.